Back in the good old pre-COVID years, I had a good friend insist that I should watch Rick and Morty. Now, she was devoutly atheist, unapologetically nihilistic, and a massive fan of the show. So I finally decided just to go ahead and give it a go. And I watched the series. And the main character, Rick, is very anti-religious. And he mocks theists on a regular basis. But much to my surprise, I enjoyed the show. And ironically, I thought, despite the creators of the show's insistence that there is no God, despite using the main character as their mouthpiece to talk against Christians, this show offers proof that God has to exist. So let's go! Generally, the show seems to steer away from specifics and just make fun of the idea of God in general.
I'm a Zeus. I can literally do anything.
But sometimes... I
beg your pardon?
First, let's talk about Rick himself. His entire outlook seems to be summed up in this one clip.
You just discovered a new element! You think you could do that, Morty? You think anyone but me could do that ever in a billion years? Do you think if God existed, he could do it? The answer is no! If God exists, it's me!
And this seems to be an accurate portrayal of how the creators view the world. Whoever masters science masters the universe. So let's talk about our first premise here. Rick just described himself as God. Or at least if there was a God, it would be him. But is being powerful really all there is to being God? No, definitely not. God, by definition, must be the greatest possible being. There can be no being greater than he is. If there is a being that can even be conceived of as being greater than God, that being would by definition be God. And by greatest, we include morality there. And we don't mean morality in this postmodern, wishy-washy, ever-evolving, changing morality. We mean the timeless morality that all human beings recognize, even if they don't like it. The taking of innocent human life is wrong, and calling that innocent human life only a fetus doesn't change the morality of it. Now, why does all this matter? Because Rick is clearly not the greatest of any kind of being. He may have a great grasp of science. He may be the greatest scientific mind in the history of the world. But he is morally, clearly, even within the show, wrong. He even has to face the consequences of how wrong his morality is. He's certainly not omniscient. He never knows how his adventures are going to go. He never knows how other people are going to react. He never even knows how his family is going to react. He's playing catch-up most of the time. He's not omnipresent. He's only in one place at a time. Now, the belief in a multiverse, in possible worlds and alternate realities, these all play important roles within this Rick and Morty universe. So you could argue, well, there are many Ricks, so he is everywhere. But these are not all him. They're all versions of him. And each version of him is bound to one place in time. And they don't even know what the other versions of themselves are doing. They simply exist in their own reality. Now you might be wondering how this plays into everything. I promise it does. Now this leads us to a second premise, one which the creators of Rick and Morty would most certainly agree with. There are an infinite number of possible realities.
Shut up and listen to me! It's fine. Everything is fine. There's an infinite number of realities, Morty. And in a few dozen of those, I got lucky and turned everything back to normal.
So we use Alvin Platinga's words, possible worlds, or you could say possible realities. Rick and Morty treats them as actual realities because, well, narrative, plot, excitement. But we don't need to do that. Because whether or not it's real, or simply possible for these other worlds to be, and that, without God, remains meaningless.
Dude, I share this with almost nobody, but I could take you right now to this same battlefield in a universe where we lost, or another where we won, or another where the war never even happened. All equally real, all equally unreal. None of it matters.
Rick says these things with a big smile on his face, as if nothing matters and it doesn't bother him. But nothing matters. He, as a character, is an alcoholic. He's depressed. He alienates his family. He can't find what's filling the void and everything else. He can experience all realities of all time. And yet he finds himself utterly depressed and alone.
I feel like I've spent my life pretending you're a great guy and trying to be like you. And the ugly truth has always been
That I'm not that great a guy and you're exactly like me.
The relationship that we have...
I never used that word.
...is not worth my integrity.
It's not a complicated transaction, my man. Would you like to join me doing awesome that matters? No, I would not. I would rather be a judgmental dork. Case closed.
I used to fear you, respect you. Now all that's left is pity for a sad, drunk shell of a man, too afraid to see how alone he truly is.
Am I evil?
Worse, you're smart. When you know nothing matters, the universe is yours. Holy I'm a terrible father.
So you might say to yourself, very well, this shows us why we would want God to exist, even if there was infinite number of realities. But that doesn't show us why we should think that God does exist. Well, my friend, that's what I'm going to address now. You see, Rick constantly reminds us that this number of possible realities is infinite. And even goes so far as to suggest that in some realities, a God must exist. As we saw earlier when he fights with a Zeus and he confronts Jesus. But as we said, in order to properly call someone or something God, it has to be the greatest conceivable thing. Nothing greater can be conceived than this thing. So if God exists, he must be omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. And if he's omnipresent, then God could not simply be in this alternate reality. He must be in all realities. Otherwise, he would be deficient and could not properly be called God. And across all of Rick's travels and experiences, this issue has, at least so far, never come up. He wants to play tough scientist. The creators are writing that when you have science, there is simply no need for God. Within their own show, that cannot possibly be true, because there has to be at least one reality that Rick encounters in which there is true God. So to sum up, if there is an infinite number of realities, or just possible realities, then there has to be just one reality in which God exists. And if God is truly God and is omnipresent, then he can't merely exist in that one reality. He must exist across all of them. So like, share, comment, subscribe, sign up for Patreon down below. I appreciate all of you guys, even if you disagree with me. If you want to learn more, then check out Alvin Plantinga's arguments for the existence of God.
So as they say in Canada, peace out.